All right, Shalom, Shalom. Let's get right to it. We're gonna give our praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh by Shema Shah. Double honor to the apostle brothers of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the hope for the elect. Shalom. So we're gonna get right to the video. The title, the time is at hand. Repent, right? Time is at hand. So we're gonna get into the scriptures and get right into it. All right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 9, verse let me see, do I got one? Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5, it say, for every battle of the war is with confusion, noise, and the garment rolled in blood, but this shall be, right? It said this should be with burning and fury of fire, right? It said this should be burning and fury of fire. Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5 said, for every battle of the warrior is with confusion, noise, and garment rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fury of fire. All right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 13, verse 9. Yeah. What is it? Yeah, Isaiah chapter 13, verse 9 said, behold, the day of the Lord come cruel both with wrath and fury, anger to lay the land desolate. He should destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Verse 3 verse 10. For the star of heaven and the counselors thereof should not give their light. The sun should be darkness in his going forth, and the moon should not cause her light to shine. Right, call. It said the moon should not cause her light to shine. Verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and their wickedness, for their iniquity, and I will cause the arrogance of their proud to cease, and I will lay no hardness of terror. Right, you're gonna lay no hardness of terror. All right, let's go to Isaiah. Let me see. Isaiah 34, verse 1. Isaiah 34, verse 1, it says, come near you nation to hear, and hearken you people. Let the earth hear, and all things that, hold on, all things is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. Right? It said, come near you nation to hear. That's what again, Isaiah 34, verse 4, it said, come near you nation. I said Isaiah 34, verse 1, so I can say that. Come near you nation to hear, and hearken you peoples. Let the earth hear, and all things, all that is therein, the world, and all things that come forth of it. For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations, his fury upon all their army. He had only destroyed them, and he had delivered them to the slaughter, right? He had delivered them to the slaughter. Skip down, verse 4. And all the hosts of heaven should be dissolved, and all the heaven, and all the heaven should be rolled together as a scroll, and all the hosts shall fall down as the leaf falling off the fig, and the falling fig from the fig tree. Verse 5, my sword should be bathed in heaven. Behold, it should come down upon Idumea, upon the people of my curse to judgment. Right? The might say my curse to judgment. Isaiah 34, verse 5, my sword should be bathed in heaven. Behold, it should come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment. All right, to judgment. For the sword of the Lord is full of blood, and make fatness with the blood of lamb, and the goat with the fatness of the king of rams. And for the Lord has sacrificed in bosom, and a great slander in the land of Idumea. Verse 8, for in the day of the Lord, vengeance, and the year of recompense, for the congregation of Zion. Isaiah, do I know? Keep going. Isaiah 55, verse 6. You know what? I'm going to move on. Let's move on. It's going to get that, but we don't. Let's go ahead and scripture. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 7. I always get this. Jeremiah 51, verse 1. It said, Thou said the Lord, Behold, I write against Babylon, and against them that dwell in the midst of them, that it rise up against me a destroying wind, right? A destroying wind. And I will send unto Babylon fan. They shall fan her, and shall empty her land. For the day of the Lord trouble, they shall be against her round about. Jeremiah 51, verse 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Saying it right here. Jeremiah 51, verse 7. Babylon had been a gold cup in the lower hand, and made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunk of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad, right? The nations are mad. Verse 8. Babylon is suddenly falling, destroy, holler for and take blame for her pain. If so be, she may be healed. Verse 9. We will heal Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone to his own country, for her judgment is reached up to the heavens, reach unto heavens, and is lifted up even to the sky. Right, lift up even to the sky. What's it, Jeremiah? Let me see, Jeremiah. What else I can get here? Let me see. Nope, I'm on there. All right, let's move on. Uh, let's go to Joel 1 verse 15. Joel chapter 1 verse 15. It say, Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Right? It said, let's read again, Joel chapter 1, verse 15. Alas, for the day of the Lord is at hand, and as destruction from the Almighty shall it come. Move on. Joel chapter 2, verse 1. Joel chapter 2, verse 1. It say, Blow your trumpet in Zion, and sound alarm in my holy mountain, and let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord, come forth is not at hand. Right? We have blown the trumpet. Joel chapter 2, verse 1 again. He said, blow you the trumpet in Zion, and sound alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. For the day of the Lord come forth is not at hand. It's not at hand. All right, let's go. Come on. All right. Let's go to Joel chapter 3. Verse 14. Here, Joel chapter 3, verse 12. Let the heathens be weak and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, for there will I set to judge all the heathens round about. But you sickles, for the harvest is ripe. Come get your down, for the press is full. The fatness overflow, for the wicked is great. Verse 14. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Right? The day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Let's read that. That's hold on. Because the word be different. I'll read again, Joel chapter 3, verse 14. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. Decision. All right, move on. Let's go to Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14. Zephaniah chapter 1, verse 14. It said, the great day of the Lord is near. It is near. It hates greater, even the voice of the Lord. No, the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry bitter, right? The mighty man shall cry bitter. Joel chapter 1, verse 14. The great day of the Lord is near. It is near. And haste greater, even the voice of the day of the Lord. The mighty man shall cry. No, the mighty man shall cry bitter. They're bitter, yeah. The mighty man shall cry. They're bitter, yeah. A day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasted and desolate, a day of darkness and gloomy, and a day of cloud and thick darkness, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced city, against the high tower, and I will bring stress upon man. They shall walk like blind men because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood should be poured out as the dust, and their flesh as the dove. Never their silver nor their gold should be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land should be devoured by fire of his jealousy, for he shall make even a speedy render of them that dwell in the land. Let's go to Matthew 16, verse 1. Matthew 16, verse 1, it said, the Pharisee also with the Sadducee came in temple and desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. And he answered and said unto them, what it is, even yet say it will be far weather, for the sky is red. In the morning it will be far weather today, for the sky is red. O Lord, O you hypocrite, you can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the time, right? Matthew 16, verse 3, in the morning it will be far weather today, for the sky is red. And Lord, O you hypocrite, you can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the time, right? He said, but can you not discern the signs of the time? What I'm doing. Let's go to Matthew 24. Matthew 24. Verse 3. And it sat upon the mountain of Olivet, and disciples came unto him privately and said, Tell us, what should those things be, and what should be the signs of thy coming and the end of the world? And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come on my name, say Mashiach, and deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that, be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right? The end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nations, and kingdom against kingdom. And there should be famine and pestilence and earthquake in diverse places. And all these are the beginning of sorrow, right? All these are the beginning of sorrow. So yeah, I made that video yesterday talking about 3 tribulations in this. But the scriptures say, Matthew 24, verse 29, it said, after tribulation, no, it's like immediately after tribulation of those days, should the sun be darkened, and the moon should not give her light. The star of heaven, the star shall fall from heaven, and the power of heaven shall be shaken. So he said 3 tribulations. Ugh, Christians don't know 3 tribulations. The scriptures say, Matthew 24, verse 29, it said, immediately after tribulation of those days, should the sun be darkness, and the moon should not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the power of heaven shall be shaken. Then it said, and then should appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and they shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud of heaven with power and great glory. Right, great glory. Let me read this one more time. Matthew 24, verse 29. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, should the sun be darkness, and the moon should not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the power of heaven shall be shaken. And this, it said, and then should appear, and then should appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and they shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the cloud of heaven with power and great glory. Right? It said, coming in the cloud of heaven with power and great glory. Verse 31, and they shall send his angel with a great sound of trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, right, to the other. Verse 32, now learn the parable of the fig tree. When the branch yet tender and put forth and lead, you know that the summer is not. So likewise, when you shall see all those things, know that it is near, even at the door, right? Near, even at the door. Near, even at the door. Right. So it's immediate after tribulation. You know, he was, I don't know, it's just the Christians they don't know. You know, these people don't know. They must not be reading the scriptures to read tribulations. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Luke 21, verse 36. No. Let's go. Nope, I'm gonna go back. There we go. Yeah, we'll go back for this. Luke 21, verse 36. No, verse 34. It said, take heed to yourself that anytime your heart be overcharged with surfeit and drinking and carrying of this life, and so the day that come upon you underwear, right? That day come upon you underwear. For the snare shall come on all that dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch you therefore and pray always that you may be a kind of word to escape. All those things should come to pass and stand before the Son of Man. Right? It said, watch you always. Let's begin again. Matthew 24, verse 36. It said, "Watch you therefore, and pray always that you may be accounted worth to escape all those things that come to pass and to stand before the Son of Man." All right, let me see. Let's get right into this.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's Dina Calametta here. And for today's show, I do have a few headlines I'd like to share with you. And I'd like to start with Russia. It is being reported that apparently losses on the battlefield in Ukraine could persuade the Russian president to resort to nuclear weapons. Now, this is coming from a former deputy general of NATO. Rose Godemuller, the alliance's deputy secretary general between 2016 and 2019, praised the gains by Ukraine's forces in their counter-offensive in the Kharkiv region, but warned what it might spur the Russian leader to do in response. The former deputy secretary said that Putin may strike back in really unpredictable ways that may even involve weapons of mass destruction. When asked if she meant a nuclear strike of some kind, she said yes, although emphasizing that she believed that this would not involve their central strategic systems or their intercontinental ballistic missiles. She went on to state that we've been concerned from the outset of this crisis with Putin rattling the nuclear saber that he might put in play for a nuclear demonstration strike. This could either be a single strike over the Black Sea or perhaps a strike at the Ukrainian military facility, which would strike terror not only into the hearts of the Ukrainians, but also Kyiv's allies. She went on to finally state that I do worry about that kind of scenario at the moment. I think the Ukrainians seem well prepared to stay the course, but we will all have to be ready to stay the course, come what may. But she also stated that she had not seen evidence of a potential nuclear strike by Russia. But if there were one, she believed that we would not respond in a nuclear way. Now, in the meantime, Medvedev issues an apocalyptic warning to the West over Ukraine, writing on Telegram that the Western half-wits from stupid think tanks are leading their countries down the road of nuclear Armageddon with their hybrid war against Moscow, endlessly funneling weapons and support to Ukraine while pretending not to be directly involved in the conflict will not work. He went on to state that the security guarantees proposal unveiled by Kyiv on Tuesday was really a prologue to the Third World War. If the West, he said, continues its unrestrained pumping of the Kyiv regime with the most dangerous types of weapons, Russia's military campaign will not move to the next level, where visible boundaries and potential predictability of actions by the parties to the conflict will be erased, and the conflict will take on a life of its own, as wars always do. And then the Western nations will not be able to sit in their clean homes, laughing at how they carefully weakened Russia by proxy. Everything will be on fire around them. Their people will harvest their grief in full. The land will be on fire, and the concrete will melt. Quoting the Bible verse from Revelation chapter 9:18, he went on to state that yet still the narrow-minded politicians and their stupid think tanks thoughtfully twirling a glass of wine in their hands, talk about how they can deal with us without entering into a direct war. Dull idiots, he said, with a classical education. So those are definitely some fighting words with even interjecting the book of Revelation. So we go back to the question, would Russia use nuclear weapons? Well, according to this former president, it's certainly not off the table. So definitely a very interesting report there. Now, with all of that said, it has also been reported that 2 Russian maritime patrol aircraft were detected and tracked off the coast of Alaska and Canada on September 11th. The aircraft entered and operated in the Alaskan and Canadian air defense identification zones, but did not enter American sovereign airspace, according to NORAD. NORAD said that this recent Russian activity in the North American ADIZ is not seen as a threat, nor is the activity seen as provocative. But Russian surveillance aircraft entered the North American ADIZ twice in a 2-day period just last month. Finally, it reports that NORAD said on Monday that we remain ready to employ a number of response options in the defense of the North America and Arctic sovereignty. Now, with that said, National Security Council spokesman Kirby has urged caution amid glee over Ukraine's development, urging reporters not to lose sight of Russia's military potential, stating that they clearly still have a military capable of inflicting great damage and casualties. For all the problems that the Russians may have faced in Ukraine, their military is still very large and very powerful, and Putin still has a lot of military capacity left at his disposal, not just to be used in Ukraine, but potentially elsewhere. I think it also should be wise to remember that Russia also has allies, just as we do, and Putin is getting very close to China, which is also a nuclear power. In fact, Gordon Chang of the Gatestone Institute sounded the alarm over a new Cold War from Russia and China. He went on to state that clearly, China and Russia have formed the new axis along with friends like Iran and North Korea. We have got to understand that the world is divided. You know, he says, a lot of Americans say that we don't want a new Cold War. Well, the point is that the Russians and the Chinese do, and they are working very closely. This is going to be the 39th time that the Chinese president and the Russian president will meet in person. Number 39. And what he's referring to there is that the two leaders will hold talks on the sidelines of the summit at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization on September 15th. Which they will discuss Ukraine and the Taiwan issue, among other subjects. But yes, he's right. This is the 39th time that they will be meeting. He also went on to say in regards to China that the U.S. is under unrelenting and malicious attack by China. We think that we are at peace, so it's business as usual. But the Chinese believe that they are at war with the United States. Now, with that said, Biden's nominee to lead the Space Force said on Tuesday that space is a war-fighting domain and argued that China is America's greatest threat in the region. Lieutenant General Bradley Saltzman appeared before the Senate Armed Services Committee as part of his nomination process on Tuesday, and he stated that the most immediate threat, in his opinion, is the pace with which our strategic challengers, first and foremost the Chinese, are aggressively pursuing capabilities that can disrupt, degrade, and ultimately even destroy our satellite capabilities and disrupt our ground infrastructure. It is one of my earliest priorities to make sure that we're on the track to build and field effective capabilities and then train the Guardians to operate in a contested domain so that we can counter this activity by our strategic competitor. Now, with that on the table, it's also been reported that the U.S. is considering whether to impose additional sanctions on China to prevent an invasion of Taiwan. The news agency noted that Taipei is lobbying in both the United States and Europe amid rising tensions between Beijing and the island. The White House is considering options for a sanctions package on China due to fears among Taiwan and Western officials that Beijing is preparing to launch an invasion to reunify with the island by force. Now, this is according to unnamed sources, though the sources provided few details on the measures under consideration. They said that Taiwan is pressing American and European officials to impose penalties, though both lobbying efforts are reportedly at an early stage. So if the United States were to do this, obviously, this is going to make China more angry. And really, it's not going to stop China from invading Taiwan. Sanctions or no sanctions. In the meantime, I'd like to talk about Israel just briefly. It has been reported that the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Greenfield, met with Israel's Defense Minister Benny Gantz on Monday to discuss the Biden administration's commitment to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon, but also use the opportunity to continue her boss's mission of pressuring Israel into accepting a two-state solution. Nate Evans, a spokesman for the U.S. mission to the United Nations, said in a statement that Thomas Greenfield expressed the United States' ironclad commitment to Israel's security and discussed with Gantz our shared commitment to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. The two leaders also expressed their concerns about the activities of Iran's Lebanese proxy, Hezbollah, and their strong support from the mandate of the United Nations interim force in Lebanon. It goes on further to report that the U.S. envoy also reiterated the Biden administration's commitment to supporting efforts towards a two-state solution and its belief that Israelis and Palestinians deserve equal measures of freedom, security, prosperity, and dignity. So very interesting and also prophetic. They're still pushing for this two-state solution. In other words, dividing the land of Israel, which we know that eventually this is going to happen. And speaking of prophetic, It has also been reported that Moscow's invitation to Hamas could be meant as a warning to Israel. Hamas's Politburo chief arrived in Moscow on September 10th at the head of the senior delegation for talks with Russian officials. Analysts speculate that Moscow's invitation to Hamas, like an earlier one in May, is meant to send a message of dissatisfaction to Israel. A senior fellow at the Jerusalem Institute for Strategy and Security said that the Russians typically use meetings with Hamas to signal displeasure with Israel, perhaps in relation to Ukraine. A noteworthy aspect of the May meeting is that it came a month after Israeli Prime Minister Lapid, then Foreign Minister, accused Russia of war crimes in Ukraine, specifically in relation to alleged atrocities committed outside Kyiv. Of the current meeting, it was unclear what specifically Russia may have found objectionable about Israeli statements or actions. But this is a way for Russia to tell Israel that if it takes the wrong step, it will strengthen relations with the region's hostile actors. The message may be, if you become our enemy, we're going to deal with your enemies. So again, a very interesting and prophetic report. We know that eventually, in the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, Russia, with Turkey and Iran and other nations, will try to invade Israel. So now we're seeing this tension and this anger towards Israel from Russia by meeting with Israel's enemies. So definitely very interesting and something to keep our eyes on. But with that said, I just wanted to bring you guys a quick report today. I know that I have been kind of...
So you see, discerning the signs of the time. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I want to get that right. The video I made yesterday, talking about 3 tribulations, and but yeah, so that's not in the scriptures in the Bible. 3 tribulations. So let's move on. Let's get some scriptures. Let's go to get a couple more scriptures and close out. All right, let's go to Revelation chapter Revelation 11. Verse 14. It said, Revelation 11, verse 14. Second woe is bad. Behold, the third woe coming quick, right? The third woe coming quick. All right. Let's see. Revelation 22, verse 10. It say, and he said unto me, seal not the sins of this prophet of this book, for the time is at hand, right? For the time is at hand. So, right, for the time is at hand. So, yeah, I'm going to close it out right there. So, yeah, so like discerning the signs of the time. So it should be, give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, by Shema Bashar, double unto the apostle, brothers, and elders, great millstone. Shalom to the hope of elect. Shalom.